Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Game Pass Grab Bag, your weekly podcast reviewing games from the Game Pass collection, bringing you three unique perspectives from varying skill range. I am the narrator of this story, Andrew. With me, the one who keeps changing the story, Keith.
Hello.
And the one who keeps forgetting the story, Liz.
Hey guys.
And this week, we had a listener request, so thank you so much to user SleepXD, who recommended we play Beacon Pines. Thank you so much for visiting our YouTube channel and commenting that we check this game out. Beacon Pines is brought to you by Hiding Spot, and it's a narrative adventure game where you are playing a small woodland creature named Luka, who is trying to unravel the mystery of his town, Beacon Pines. And as you are going throughout the story, you are collecting words to help kind of change and navigate through this mystery that is happening within this small town. But going around, I guess I will start this off. For me, this was a game, almost a definite game. I was thoroughly surprised on how much I actually enjoyed this game. It is light on gameplay, but I loved its story. I loved its characters. I thought its gimmick of its gameplay of changing stories would be kind of lame. I wish it had a little more depth to it, but overall, I thought the whole package was really solid. I was pleasantly surprised by this.
Yeah, I would honestly say I think kind of surprised myself. I thought I was going to like it. It looked like it was kind of light. I don't know. I like these kinds of games. Sometimes I know I'm not a huge story person, but when it comes to like a little sort of indie, lighthearted type of game like this, I generally do like them. So I was anticipating I'd enjoy it, but yeah, I was actually surprised on how much I enjoyed it more than I thought I would even. So yeah, I don't know if I would go so far as a definite game, but it is a game for sure.
For me, it's a game as well. I really enjoyed it more than I thought. I didn't think I was going to dislike it, but there were some games that we've played that had limited gameplay, and it really depended on the story, and then it just kind of fell apart at the end. I'm looking at you, Twin Peaks game. What was that game called? I'll never forget. I was so pumped.
Twin Peaks, you mean As Dusk Falls?
No, the one it's in the 80s and they're like the FBI and you collect lint.
Oh, are you talking about 12 Minutes?
Oh.
Are you guys joking?
Thimbleweed Park.
Thimbleweed Park, thank you.
You always reference Thimbleweed Park. I always forget about that game, but you always reference it.
Yeah, because it was one of those things where like this story, I was a little nervous that it was going to end up like that.
Me too.
Like the ending was going to be real dumb. But it was better than I anticipated because I was really expecting that. And yeah, I liked it.
So if you're looking for another heavy story game, this looks like it's got a three-way recommendation right here. Yeah, and I think it's definitely hands down because of the story. I think the story it was great. I thought it was I was like you, Liz. I was like, this is going to end up something weird. I was like, I'm not going to like this. It's going to be something lame. But no, it was actually really cool. And the way the kind of story is told, as I kind of said, is you're actually playing as the character walking around and interacting with things in the environment. And every once in a while, you'll be like, oh, this trash smells pungent. And you'll get a word, pungent. And so every once in a while, you get these crossroads where you can actually change the words. I was expecting to be able to have a little more freedom. I was hoping for that. But essentially, you're listening to the same story told in 4 different ways. And I was like, this is going to be confusing. I'm not going to remember what story arc I'm on or whatever. But I actually found it really easy to figure out what story arc I'm on. And I thought it was so cool. I was like telling this one story 4 different ways.
But I also think, too, that, I mean, this is one of those games where it could have been a movie because no matter what, you have to do all the choices anyway. Yeah. And you also get them in kind of a certain way. I feel like it really does with this game fit because no matter what, like you kind of get them in a certain order. Like you might deviate a little bit. No, you can. But what I mean is you have to play them all anyway.
Yeah. In
order to get certain ones, in order to go further in like, another branch of the tree, you have to go to the other ones. So for me, it just, I don't know. I wish that there were more consequences because at first when things kind of go sour, you do kind of get hit like, ooh, I didn't like that choice. But then it's like, oh, I would have made that choice anyways. You kind of learn that. So when something goes wrong, it kind of gets rid of that, like, you know?
Well, I know we're less than 5 minutes into this episode, so maybe
we're already done. No,
maybe I'm already poking the bear a little too early here. But what was your biggest complaint, Liz, about As Dusk Falls? From 4 seconds into the game, could you decide to follow the father or stay with a wife? And now you're telling me that this game does not have enough consequences to actions.
You're making some good points, and I don't like it. I don't like it when you make good points. No, I see what you're saying, and I don't like it.
But here's what's funny to me, though, is that I kind of had the same thought process about Beacon Pines, and that I'm playing through it, and I was like, man, I don't like that I can go back so easy, but the story was just short enough that I didn't mind having to replay a couple parts a few times, and it's almost like the story would have had to have been shorter for me to want to go back and like start from the beginning and have a consequence to not be able to go back and change my decision so quickly. So I ended up liking what they did with this, but I had the same hesitation that you did as far as like no consequence to my action.
Well, I will say I did just think of one thing, is that there's a lot more gameplay in As Dusk Falls as well, though. So with this game, you really are just, interacting and hitting A. Like, you're not doing quick time events. So there was a bit more. It felt more like a game with As Dusk Falls because you actually are doing stuff. With this game, you're walking around, you're talking to people, and you're choosing a charm, essentially. And there's kind of fishing, a tiny bit of fishing, but yeah, there's no real like gameplay.
Don't spoil the gameplay with fishing now.
Every game's got to have fishing.
Yep.
Even a narrative game.
But I don't know. See, I know that the quick time events happen in As Dusk Falls, and these games are so wildly different, but we've done them similar or close enough that I think they're a great comparison. We're kind of talking about them. And I don't know. I don't think there was a lot more gameplay to As Dusk Falls. Yes, you had the quick time event, so there was more timely gameplay, but I don't think there was a whole lot more action outside of the storyline just really being a lot longer than this is. And even As Dusk Falls, now that I think about it, you could go back and jump through the story, so you kind of could do the same thing as you do with Beacon Pines. It just wasn't advertised the same way.
Yeah, and I also, with this game, I kind of wondered who it was geared to, because there are some things that they say that I'm like, this isn't a kid's game.
It is, yeah, that's kind of a good point, because your character's like 12 years old. All the kids you're playing as like are 12 years old. And it is very lighthearted, but then every once in a while, yeah, they drop a swear.
Yeah, like you have the option to be a little, I don't know if I can say it, shit.
No, you are not allowed to say that.
But at the same time, they also kind of have this scene where like the two teenagers they're going through some stuff at home and they're like yelling out the window, and it was a bit cheesy for me. Like it kind of like made me cringe a little bit. I get what they were going for, but what I mean is like you have these teenagers that are going through things or young kids, like
they're 12.
12.
So not
so,
quite teenagers.
Yeah. So kids. Yeah. So you have these kids that are going through stuff, but it's also heavy stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, I was just like, who is this game targeted to?
I mean, I would still say like our age. Like I didn't feel like I was not connected to these characters. Like you still understood their struggles because it's life. Like the main character you're playing, Luka, right at the beginning, it obviously tells you, your dad died 6 years ago and now your mom's missing. She's been missing for months. So you're this young kid who's missing his parents. So like there's like these real situations. It's not like they're only going through childish things and you can't.
No, I know, but I said they were going through things at home. I didn't say they were like silly things. And same with like, it's actually really dark at the beginning because he's like, now that it's been 6 years, like you've been dead longer than you've been alive. And I was just like, oh, that's freaking dark.
Yeah.
But then you also have like Iggy's the bully, right?
Yep.
You have that whole thing. And also some of the choices that you have to make are like pretty gnarly.
Yeah, but they were never delivered in like, I felt like everything was at least delivered in kind of a lighthearted way.
Iggy? That scene?
With fireworks.
Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I was sad.
No, that's true.
That was the last path I took, actually. That was the very last one I went to.
Oh, what a way to end.
Yeah, well, I couldn't bring myself to. But that's a whole other thing.
Oh, like you stopped that story arc and went somewhere else?
I did. I jumped over. It's like,
wow.
I don't know. I don't know if I can do this right now.
Oh.
Yeah, I did it the way that I would have done it. Like, I don't want to give spoilers.
Do we want to have a spoiler section at the end?
I think we could do a spoiler, because this is the type of game, it's so short that as long as we warn people and we talk about it at the end, people can stop or just listen and not care that it's going to be spoiled for them.
No.
And then go back and listen to it when they play it.
But yeah, I just wanted to say, like, I agree with Keith that I didn't want to do the other one, but I did do it because I knew that I'd eventually have to anyway. But it wasn't my first choice.
Oh, see, I went through all the stories until I couldn't, and then would just go back.
I mean, I was doing a little bit of that too. Like, I was kind of just like, okay, I've reached a point where I can't, so I'll just move back to like the furthest point where I could with a new choice, I guess. So it wasn't fully this big heartfelt, like, I couldn't do it, but it was like, I don't know, that seems like a hard choice to make. I'll get back to you type of thing.
Seems like a Liz move there.
A little bit. You know what? Liz and I are having some heartfelt moments here. She's admitting that I was right. She agreed with me later on.
You complimented her, I think, last episode.
I think so. We're turning a new leaf. It's going to be terrible for the podcast, but great for our friendship.
So you guys win, but the listeners lose.
What else is new?
People come here for a fight. Yeah.
Let's fight with Andrew this episode.
I
also
you can't get under my skin.
Oh, you
don't make me fire her up.
Don't take that as a
9 in the
Let
afternoon.
me just crack my
God,
knuckles.
you remember the song?
Wait, what was it, Keith? What was it? Tell me.
Do not
Tell me.
Do not remind her. She's literally been harassing me to figure out what song that I hate so much.
I forgot what it was.
It might be by Panic at the Disco, and I'll leave it at that.
Keith, come on.
Hey, I didn't give her the name of the song.
I didn't listen to them growing up, so I'm...
Oh, I didn't listen to it growing up. It was just in college. My roommate constantly played that song.
Oh, yeah, that was college time. I've never listened to them, so I'm like, I don't know how old they are. It's hard to tell what we can say, what we can't say, because, I mean, it happens at the very beginning of the game,
This is
so
America.
I'll just say it.
You can say what you want.
Yeah, so, like, at the beginning of the game, you only have, like, one charm to choose from, so it does happen no matter what.
Yeah.
But you get taken. I immediately thought, like, the character was going to be killed. But I'm like, do they only kill scientists, or do they kill kids, too?
No.
Because what do they do with them after? Just keep them imprisoned until
it's all about, the whole purpose is to prevent people for a certain time. Try not to spoil things. You're asking too much.
I know, but they kill scientists. So I'm like, why? Like, where do they draw the line? Where they, like, you know?
Well, I think when we get into the spoiler, I think there's sort of an answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah. But were you guys surprised by the story? Did you find it at all predictable?
No, I didn't. And it wasn't like this epic, wow, I was blown away by it. But I didn't really see where it was going. They do a good job of kind of masquerading who's truly bad. And even until you get like the actual ending, I feel like it doesn't actually come out. And I kind of appreciate that, because I honestly, if I had gone through that Iggy moment, I would have gotten the final ending on my last turn. So it actually like worked out well for me in a way, except for I skipped that one.
The only thing I was able to predict was what happened, the fate of the mother. I kind of pieced that together. But I agree. That's what I liked about this. It wasn't anything like these crazy twists of like, oh, they're in space. Like, nothing stupid. Everything felt very cohesive. And that's what I like really enjoyed about the story is you're playing these kids. You're not like, these kids really aren't anything special. They're not, extra brave or something like that. Or we have special gadgets. They're literally just like kind of kids stumbling through this mystery that's happening within the town. And like besides one story arc, they really don't do anything that special besides like a heist. In that way, but besides that, everything seemed at least kind of plausible.
Well, I like the, what was it? Good cop, bad cop, but they changed it. And
you could either be chill cop or like sly cop.
And there's three that go with their personality. So Luka, Rolo, and Beck. And so I thought that was kind of interesting seeing how they would play it.
Because they didn't do good like any of them.
Yeah. But did you guys have a favorite character?
I think Rolo is probably my favorite.
I liked Beck. I wish there was more of her.
Yeah, she
I
came
felt
kind
like
of late.
she got introduced in the story late. And I didn't feel like you knew too much about her. But I really liked Beck. I was also disappointed in Iggy. I really wanted to know more about Iggy. Like, he was a character that you literally see like once in the beginning, and then randomly you get a heavy section of him, but then on like one story arc, but then you don't. And it's just, I wanted to know more about him.
I also keep thinking it's a girl. It's like I keep getting like because I mean, they're woodland creatures.
Yeah.
I mean, I just kind of came up with my own ideas, and then it was like, oh, he, and I was like, oh, okay, now I know. But yeah, he I mean, when it comes to bullies and stuff, do you really think that bullies just have that like epiphany like that? It always happens in movies where all of a sudden they're the good guy.
Yeah, that's a little bit
cliche. Like,
I think it is, but I think it was more the moment. You know, they kind of find themselves in this really tough moment, and all of a sudden this hard shell cracks around him as the bully. And I don't disagree that it's a bit cliche, overplayed, whatever you want to call it, but I thought it fit actually fairly well in the moment of what was going on.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I think, and it really, all they needed to do is maybe give like a little bit of a flash of background to Iggy. I mean, they kind of give you an idea of why Iggy is the way he is without, like, you don't know his family life or whatever, but you kind of just find out, I don't know, he wants to be cool, so he's like overcompensating by being a jerk to everyone, and he's just kind of an underconfident kid. So it's like you get that, but I don't know. I feel like with every one of them, otherwise, like Rolo doesn't really, but like Luka and Beck, they give you a really heavy dose of their family life and what's going on for them. But Rolo is like kind of there, and then Iggy's not at all, and Tish is just there, just exists as a random rhino.
And just keep saying, yup.
She kind of says something negative about Tish. And it's just like, that's like your one friend. And like the one thing you say about her is negative. And you're upset that you don't have more friends. Like for me,
he just said that she's not great for conversation, which is true because she literally just says, yep.
Yeah, but it's the only thing he really said about her. So for me, I'm just like, if you want more friends, try talking nicer about the friends that you have. Just saying.
But this is one thing I like about Beacon Pines over like As Dusk Fall. Like, I think Beacon Pines does have a good amount of gameplay because the game lets you explore and walk around the town and talk to these random people. And I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed kind of seeing what this town was about. I will say I made the unfortunate mistake of stepping into the history tent, I think 3 times. And you can't skip that. It gives you a cutscene.
I thought that would happen, so I only went in once. I was like, I'm not going to risk it.
But there's like times where like the lights are on. I'm like, oh, am I supposed to go in this tent now? Is there something special? And it just plays the same dang video over and you can't skip it. I'm like, oh, come on. It tricked me.
Son of a...
I also like too that there was, not to like skip ahead, but in that area, that's where the...
watermelon is.
Yeah. And I like that I felt like a gamer. Because there was an achievement for kicking it 20 times. I'm like, something happens with this watermelon. I'm just going to keep kicking it and see what happens.
I felt like a gamer. I kept poking things.
I mean, honestly, though, that's such a valid statement.
It is.
It's like, I
not
just
to
figured
mock
if
you,
I did this
you
thing,
are right.
No, it's a legitimate statement. That's what's so funny about it. It's like, I don't know. I figured if I just did this stupid thing too much, it would give me an achievement.
But yeah, so pro tip, do not go into the history museum more than once. Just go once and never go again.
What? Hey, no, this is America. You do what you want. If you like that video, you go in that tent as many times as you want. If you don't want to watch an unskippable tent video over and over again, we would suggest that you don't go in there.
Well, that's why I said pro tip. It's a tip,
well,
Keith.
Did you say 2 or 3 times you went in?
I think I went 3.
See, at that point, it's your fault. If it happens more than twice, it's your fault.
I didn't want to miss a charm, so I'm like, I gotta flip every rock kind of thing.
I will say, I had to go back for some of the fishing. I can never say this. Lures.
Say it how you want. I mean, we'll mock you regardless.
What are
so
they?
Say it how you want.
I say lure.
I say lure.
Okay.
Lure.
I had to look up a couple of them because you have to get them at a specific time in a specific place on like the tree.
Yep.
So I had to look up some of those.
See, I'm a gamer and I got them all naturally. I didn't have to look up anything. Because I went in that tent multiple times to make sure
I spent an extra hour talking to everybody in the game.
Yeah. I kept talking to the alligator on the bench who's reading a story, who's also completely pointless.
They're telling your story.
I don't think so. Was she?
Yeah, she was like talking about like what was going on, but in like it was coming from a book. You're talking about the one on the park bench, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I thought she was just talking about random things.
I'd believe it. I didn't catch it, but I believe it.
Don't get me wrong, I wasn't surprised either, but I kept thinking that. I'm like, oh, maybe she's like foreshadowing on things to come. But I never pieced it together. And then there was
the girl in the library that kept spoiling the books for you. Was it comics?
Oh, the Hankatomics.
I did not talk to her. I did not see that.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, no spoilers, please. Then she keeps running her mouth, and it happens like every time you talk to her. It's in the library.
Guess you would have known that if
you
were
pro gamer.
Hey, I lost this game on my first run, so.
Yeah.
Cool.
You know what? Your first run, you can't fail. Like, what do you mean your first run?
Liz beat the game, and she was at like 800 gamer score. She missed 2 achievements. She had to go back and get them.
Oh.
But I also,
whatever.
In all fairness, I didn't look up the achievements. Like, you were looking them up to see what you need to do.
I didn't look them up. I revealed them. You're splitting hairs later, Liz.
I think revealing's
I'll
okay.
split the hairs.
Thank you, Keith.
Keith's
on my side.
What did Keith say?
Keith said revealing him's okay.
I know. I didn't say anything wrong with it. I'm just saying I got 800 without looking them up. So the fact that I had to go back for 200 gamer score is not bad.
No, it's not.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It isn't bad. It's great, actually.
Liz, don't let Andrew bring you down. He's just being Mr. Negative tonight.
No, I think Liz is trying to attack me. She does. She's trying to be friendly with you, Keith. Now she's doing it for me.
But she's my friend.
So for the storyline, one of the things that I liked is...
and it just glossed over you saying that.
Yeah, you need to exit.
Keith's my friend. Keith's like, oh, I'm just going to keep going.
So guys, this podcast we're doing, this game.
Yep. Cookie, sorry.
But like, I don't know, maybe it was just me and how I like am watching a story progress or things like that. But as I'm going back and I'm doing things, I'm like, you know what happened on another storyline, so you're like, in your head, the character knows, because they do that weird thing of blending, like you said, Andrew, where you're playing the main character, but you're kind of playing the narrator who's deciding the book as the author. Like you're everything in there. So I'm like separating out that I'm like, I know what's about to happen when this happens, but you don't know this, and I don't know, it's like a cool aspect to the storytelling that I really enjoyed.
What did you guys think of the narrator?
I liked her. Some of the only thing that kind of got annoying was her being like, when a story would end, like abruptly, her constantly being like, no, this can't be right. Like her constantly doing that got a little annoying.
Like a dramatic,
yeah.
Because then there was.
Is she the author, or just a narrator? That was the only thing I couldn't. Because if it's like the author, I can see it in my mind, or I can kind of picture like an author be like, no, that's not how I want it. That's too dark. That's too this, and like they're trying to fit the mold. But there's 2 female voices, because then there's one point where that voice is talking to another female voice.
There is?
Yeah.
I only remember one time. I only remember one.
I'm almost positive, and I think maybe it is only the one time of like one of the bad endings. But I don't know. I thought there was like 2 voices, but I liked it all.
I'm trying to think. Now that you say that, I think there was a moment, but you might be right, but I can't remember.
It's on IMDb.
That's what I was just pulling up.
I've only seen one voice actress. Yeah, Kirsten Mize.
Okay, maybe I made it up, or I.
No, I mean it might have just been her voice. Just like she might have done like a different tone.
Maybe, and maybe she's just talking to herself. That's the whole point of it. Either way.
But she's listed as the narrator, so she's not the author. She's just the narrator. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys, I brought this up, or maybe you brought it up with me. I don't remember, Andrew. But the segment where it ends, but it's like a cliffhanger. Like, do you think there's going to be DLC or another game?
That's what we'll talk about in the spoilers. We'll save that for the spoilers.
Okay.
Because I want to discuss that with you guys too. But I figure we got to go in detail with that. So I figured that's something that we should say in the end.
Get under his skin, Liz. Just do things out of order. Get him all frazzled.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you had to get into it that much, but.
Well, yeah. I mean, I want to get your thoughts and like why.
No, I get it. I'm just saying, like, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize you had a whole thing coming up.
You are just trying to fight me right now.
Because I said I didn't know.
No, yeah, I gave you an answer and you don't like it. You get
I love your answer. Let's talk about it later. I want to talk about it right now.
All right. Yeah, so as we said, like the gameplay is very light in this game. It is just you kind of walking around exploring this area, which there's like 10, 12 different panels, not a ton of like areas you get to explore. This is a very small town. But that's one thing I enjoyed. I liked that it wasn't a big town because I'm glad I wasn't needlessly wandering around in like unnecessary areas. Did you guys ever get lost?
No. I think maybe once or twice, like in the town, I went, oh, like I thought it was this path, and then I just turned around and I went to the other path. But like I wasn't like, oh my goodness, where is this thing I'm trying to find?
Yeah, and that's what I liked. Like it seemed to with like the objective. Like I never felt like, oh wait, what am I supposed to be doing now? Who am I supposed to be looking for? Everything just felt like it was so well written and like guide you well enough that I felt like I had freedom to explore, but I wasn't lost. So I don't know. I enjoyed this gameplay. Like I said, so the main gameplay is you finding these charms and changing the story. You are finding a ton of different charms, but as Liz said, there's this weird memory segment of you and your father fishing, and you're using these random words to pull out it's specific lore. But it didn't really add too much. And so like that was kind of frustrating. I'm finding these words. I'm like, cool. What part of the story can I change this on? And there's like nothing. And I kind of wish there was a little more choice, but I understand this is a small indie studio. This obviously is not As Dusk Falls, a 56 gig game that has so many choices and they need a massive file. I think this was only like 2 gigs or something like that. It was something relatively small. So I don't fault the game for it. I wanted to like see more of the story.
Yeah, I kind of agree although I don't know. I'm like, do I want to know more about the town? Not really. And not because I wasn't interested in it, but I think they actually give you a pretty good idea of what this town was. Like, you don't need to know more. And even the characters outside of Iggy and Beck, I don't really feel like there was anyone I needed more of. I think it could have been interesting, but I'm not like, oh man, I need to find more about the history between Luka's dad and Mr. Nuncreed or things like that. I think everything you need to know about him is right then and there.
What about the dad's friend or ex-friend?
Yeah, that's Mr. Nuncreed.
Oh, I thought he had a different name. I kind of feel like I honestly, like the adults, all their names jumbled up. I don't remember any of their names. I definitely thought that was a different one. But yeah, I kind of wish there was more about him. But yeah. I mean, also like the woman at the diner, like you find out that like you used to work there with your mom, right?
Yeah.
And so like you don't really know anything about her.
Yeah. Or I wanted to know more about the bat who was trying to act as a reporter.
Yeah, I thought it was really funny.
She kept like popping up and like, but kind of give you some information. I'm like, who is this person? Like,
my best work is at night. I was like,
or the mouse at the ending of that one story.
The mouse I would have liked to know more about. That was, and I don't, and again, do we save this for the spoilers, Andrew? You were very serious about spoilers. This is the end.
No, I know. Well, no, we'll go into it, but I'm saying like there are some characters that I'm like,
but yeah, the mouse, I definitely would have liked to have understood what they were.
And also the clipboard people.
Yeah.
It's
were they clones?
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but then like, no spoilers. Never mind.
All right, but so we'll kind of go over the gameplay. So, like I said, gameplay is very light. If you were playing this game expecting some crazy adventure, kind of you get to do all these choices, this isn't what Beacon Pines is. It is obviously very story
it's almost
focused.
a walking simulator.
In some ways. Yeah, I would almost kind of describe it as that. But I will say I loved the art style. I thought every scene kind of looked like a really nice like painting, essentially. Like I loved the forest sceneries. The town was kind of cool looking. I love the art style. I thought all the characters looked very unique.
I agree. I also really thought that the buildings and the structures were really cute too. Like I just like it had a lot of charm.
But I think the art style alone is something that this game really excels with, because as I said, you're kind of seeing 4 different stories, sometimes even more. And so sometimes you might get lost as to like what's going on in these arcs. But I feel like the art style was so good, you could kind of remember key points of like, oh, this is the one with the walkie-talkie. Oh, this is the one where someone's big. Oh, this is the one where like the environment looks like this. So I felt like because like they did such a good job, like with these certain key moments, I never got lost in like where the story was going, like which one I was jumping into. Because sometimes you jump way back. The book has, I think, technically like 6 chapters. Or no, I think it might have been 8. But obviously each chapter is constantly changing because of what story you're on. But like I never got lost. I could always be like, oh, even though I jumped all the way back to chapter 2, I'm like, oh, this is what's going on. And I don't know. I kind of credit that bit to the art style.
Well, there's really 2 main story arcs, and maybe you said this, and I just kind of toned you out a little, but there's
you
like,
tend to do.
2 main story arcs. Yeah, exactly. And then of those, there's 2 that branch off of the main. So you have like 4 endings, and yeah, I agree. It makes it pretty easy because it's like even of the 2 separate endings of the 4, they're tied back to the main story arc. So the branches are few enough that even if you have to go back far, you're not lost.
Yeah. But I wanted to know the sound design though. So as we said, there is one voice actress that is the narrator. All the characters instead do the weird garbly noise.
It didn't bother me. I think it worked for this game.
I actually think it did too.
And I also the cheesy singing. I mean, I guess it wasn't. I think it was a little cheesy, but there was music playing that scene that I was kind of about. The whole scene just was like I just didn't care for it. But overall, like when things kind of took like a dark turn, like I feel like everything worked really well, with the sound effects and the noises.
Yeah, I did too, because every creature had a different pitch that made it easy to recognize them. And then even though it's just weird garbly noises, I felt like it conveyed emotion pretty well, which is really surprising.
I'm in the middle because I had no issue with it. I think I would have preferred to have voice acting though, but it didn't bother me. And I think the biggest reasons are all of the ones that you said, Andrew. The fact that they made everybody unique, even for Gran, for example, they made her garbly. It was like a little bit deeper, and there sounded like a scratchiness to it, like it was an old lady speaking. So there was parts of it. Like it was funny because at one point I was playing and Amber was sitting next to me. And she looks at me. She's like, "What is this noise? Like, what are you doing?" And I was like, sorry, it's kind of just part of the game. It's weird. And even she said, she's like, it's not annoying. I just had no idea what was happening. And so it's like, I don't know. I would have preferred the voice acting, but I think it was fine without it. And then as far as the music, I agree with Liz. There was a couple moments where I didn't think it fit great, but overall, I thought the music was well designed in the background. It didn't take over, and I enjoyed really all of it.
Yeah. For someone who normally gets really annoyed by noises, I did not have any issues with the garbly noises going on with the creatures. I thought it did well. I enjoyed the music overall. Yeah, there's a couple moments I thought, I guess you call it a cheesy moment. I thought it was good. I had no issues with any of the music. I thought it was a lot of fun.
It's just personal.
Yeah, I'm not knocking you. I'm not Keith. I'm not trying to.
I'm not saying the scene was bad. I'm just saying it wasn't for me.
Okay.
Half the time you're encouraging me, Andrew. Don't act like you're so high and mighty.
But I will absolutely 100% recommend this game for achievement hunters. There is
10?
10 achievements. Okay, I can't remember if it was 10 or 12. I just played Scorn. Scorn was 12. This one's 10. But this one is easy achievements. All the achievements are secret. I highly recommend you just reveal all of them because honestly, they do not need to be secret. It's not going to reveal any spoilers. It was just, you might as well do it because they are missable. As we said, there's kind of chapter selective where you can jump through different points of the story. So if you do miss a chapter, like an achievement, it's easy to just go back and get it. But if you're playing this right at the beginning, I just recommend just revealing and just doing them because they're easy to do.
Yeah, and honestly, even if you don't reveal them, like we were talking about, if you're kind of just being a little bit thorough with a game, you're probably going to get all of them anyway, so you don't even really need to look at them, quite honestly. But otherwise, yeah, there's no harm in revealing them by any means. And I didn't get a chance to say it, but Liz, like you, I ended up looking up the fishing one because I missed one of the lures, and I was like, you know what? At that point, it wasn't even because I had an issue with the game, but I was like, I just don't feel like going back and digging through every nook and cranny to find one lure. And all it was is that I had to talk to somebody at a very specific moment in time. And so I did that, got my lure, and then finished out my 1,000.
What was everyone's game score, Liz?
We all got 1,000.
Ooh.
The trifecta.
Good job, guys.
But yeah, let's get into our final thoughts, and then we'll talk spoilers. So, I'll go first. So, as I said, this was a game. I thoroughly enjoyed its story. I thought this was going to be just very generic and kind of cheesy, but it absolutely was not. I thought its story was very engaging. I loved seeing the story being told in multiple different ways, in different paths. So you, as a person who's been playing, you kind of know what's going on, but your character doesn't. And so you got to kind of piece this together and have your character guide him along. I was surprised by its story. I think its ending was good. I'm intrigued as to what they're going to do beyond this. But yeah, to me, this was a very fun game. It's very short. You're looking for a time to beat. For time to beat, you're looking between 5 to 6 hours. So not a very long game, but honestly, that was a very sweet spot. I actually wouldn't mind if it was a little bit longer, but yeah, definitely a game you could knock out in a day or two or the weekend. So for me, this is a good 85.
Yeah, I was more than pleasantly surprised. I didn't have, I think more often than not, I go into games with a higher expectation and end up being surprised. This was one I went in with a at least optimistic outlook, and I was very, very happy with my time with it. One of the things we didn't actually talk about this week, but I feel like we do a lot, is this is a fantastic cloud game. So if it's not something you even want to commit like your full time to, but I don't know, you commute on a train, you have a long car trip coming up, anything like that, this is the perfect game for it. I think I actually put in probably 2 or 3 good hours in a car over the weekend, just riding in the back seat. I fired it up, and if you hit a spot where it's not great service, there's nothing in the game that you're going to fail at, or it's time sensitive. And it actually does a very good job of, I think the furthest back I ever had to go back was 2 conversations, and I skipped through them. So it fits the perfect for a cloud-based game. Overall, though, the story is fun. I liked it, and I'm someone who generally doesn't like stories, especially
that's a high praise from you.
Games. I just thought it was interesting. It was fun and it was interesting, and it didn't try to be this big gotcha twist, but it kind of had a little twist, and I really enjoyed it, and I liked the characters. No one was overwritten or over dramatic. It just, I don't know, it all felt really well. And yeah, I think I'd give this game a 91.
I feel like we need to create a watermark for the games of key seal of approval for story.
Yeah, right?
Seriously, this one's got to have it.
Yeah. Keith did not skip dialogue.
No, I really didn't. I actually read all of it, even multiple times, because I want to process the changes.
Yeah.
I guess I might give it an 83. It feels low, but gameplay wise, I don't know. Because I was originally going in thinking 80, but now I'm that's too low. After we've been talking about it, not because of your scores.
Okay.
guess I'll do 83. Just because, I mean, I kind of did want like a little bit more with the story, like a little bit more of a twist, I think. And gameplay wise, it was, you
seems so uncertain. This is the most like confused review I think I've ever heard.
I don't know what to give this game, because usually I go in with like an idea, but even when I went in with like 80, I'm like, I feel like that's low, but I don't know.
What did you dislike about the game? And I'm not even trying to change your score. What brought it down to an 8? What brings it down to an 83? That's the question you could ask.
I think one of the big things was like maybe a bit more of a twist, and then with the whole like consequences thing, I felt like it kind of lost the shock value like way too early, because some of the things I think were supposed to be kind of shocking, but when you realize that you're just gonna go back and you know what I mean, like there were certain things like that kind of just took away that what I think like it had at the very beginning. Does that make sense? Like, no.
Yeah.
But looking at Metacritic, Xbox One is TBD. Series X is 88 and 6.5. There's one review, like really bad review, that brought it down. Someone gave it a 2. Yeah, so why do I feel bad? I didn't give it a 2. He said, or she, I don't know. Press A. Must love pressing A. Get a good movie playing on second screen and press the same button for 2 hours. That was his review.
Wildly like it's a wild exaggeration.
Because you obviously have to run around and interact and stuff, and
why would you have a movie playing on a game that's clearly meant to be a super heavy story game?
Yeah.
At that point, don't play the game. Like, I don't get what you're doing. I feel like that's someone who went thinking they were going to be playing something like Halo with like heavy gameplay. And it's like, no, it's meant to be just a narrative-driven game.
Yeah, or like Zelda or something.
Yeah, it's like, no. I will say, the trailer had me confused. I think this game's trailer is pretty crappy, because I was actually thinking that this game possibly was a turn-based RPG. The way, because the fact that it's 3 characters in the front, and like the way some were kind of talking of like situations, I was like, is there battling? Granted, the trailer never showed any. I just personally had the assumption that there was some sort of like RPG element to it. I don't know.
So you can kind of see why he might be disappointed.
No, because then I also looked at the game description and I went, oh, okay. It's an adventure story game. So, no.
Okay.
That's why games have descriptions.
Wait, that really brought it down, the 6.5, because his was like the only, I think it was the only red score.
All right. So, if you do not want any spoilers, because we're going to talk a little bit about the end here and some more discussions, you can stick around, but if not, you can end the episode here. Come back later after you played the game, or if you just want to hear the story and don't want to check out the game, that's fine too. You do you. I don't care. But anyway, let's get into the story. So the big thing I wanted to ask, where do you think this game's going? Do you think this is a one and done story? Because I hope not. I personally, because I wanted to ask, what do you guys think is the true ending? Like, there are kind of multiple different endings that are going on.
So I don't like what I consider to be the main ending, because
the one where you kill Sharp, essentially, which is weird.
Or turn him back into a baby, whatever it is that you choose. Because I don't like how they left off with Rollo and the mother, which I can say that now.
Yes.
The grandmother is the mother.
Yeah.
And she was aged when she was trying to take these people down. Because for me, it's like, okay, he already lost his dad. Now his mother is a grandmother. Like the grandmother age. Yeah. It's like he's, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm sure you're upset about. I was more upset about they left Rollo. The true ending is Rollo's an adult.
Yeah.
Like, for me, that bothered me more.
That's kind of weird. Like, not creepy, but like also kind of creepy, where he's like a 12-year-old, but he looks like a man.
Yeah.
It's Tom Hanks and Big, or
wasn't it Robin Williams? Yeah, and Jack, I think it was.
Yes, Jack. There you go. Well, so. I think closer to Jack, actually.
Or Benjamin Button. Written.
Well, no,
that's just reverse. Yeah.
That's just completely wrong. Well,
the Terminator, you know?
Yeah, the Terminator, naturally. Back to the Future. But I don't know. They don't really, like, the body ages, and so I guess yes, if your body is aged, it's just aged. But it's not actually? Well, yeah, it is because it talks the plants die. I don't know. I was like, are they actually closer to death? I guess in terms of age, or is their body just displaying older?
Well, okay.
Does that question make sense?
Yes, because this is a plot hole. As Liz said, the main one is Sharp goes back to a baby, and they say, oh, he forgets everything. He's a baby. His mind essentially gets erased. But that makes no sense. Because it's like when people are older, they still have the mind of a child. But apparently if you go to a younger age, you have the mind of that child's age. Like, that makes no sense.
Well, other than if the actual aging process is like fully changing the dynamic of your like the biology, like I guess I could see that as like yes, a baby's brain is fully developed, but it's still it has your brain has to put things together to get you to where you are to be an adult. I don't know if that even makes sense, but like you legitimately don't process things that you had happen to you as a baby because your brain doesn't create memories at that point is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So if biologically his brain is developed back to a baby, it would erase in theory and not create new memories.
Well, they brought up like nature versus nurture as well. Like maybe they can make it so that he's not evil later on.
But
when he grows up.
But then there's that ending, right? Yeah. Where and it's all part of it, where he gets back to the source and he like stops and he pauses for it and he's as a kid. Now, is that as a kid when he is
Yeah, when he was evil. I was curious about that too.
Or because then it cycles back to the beginning of the game. So is that just a weird prologue to the story that you see at the end of the game, or is that him now aging to a child and it's his brain kind of starting to actually remember those things?
Well, hold on. So that ending, if you remember, you see the source and it's only slightly frozen over. There was only one ending. I was wondering
about that too.
Yeah, there's only one ending when Iggy dies. That's the only time it only got slightly frozen over. And that was an accident. So no one knows you have to use a light explosion to close off the source. So that's what I was thinking, is that's the Iggy ending. And I think that is the true ending, where they kind of leave it for sequel. That's the only ending where you see this mouse character who's very cryptic and kind of is alluding to a much larger story. And it ends with like a sequel. And the narrator's like, no, this can't be right. This can't be a sequel. And it's just like, I don't know. Like, I feel like they were trying to set up for a sequel.
So is that not Sharper Valentine in that arc?
No, it is. It still is.
Okay.
But that's what's confusing. I will say that is what's a little confusing, because like, who's he playing ball with? And then it's like, Sharper Valentine, he is there the entire time, so he would have had his memories. I don't know. That's why I'm not quite sure if my guess is the right guess.
Well, because then on that same branch on the far right, when you say bye Iggy and you just drop him into the pit, is like, so that's the only time it partly freezes over. But then you go through that whole thing and it makes kind of a joke about Beacon Pines 2.
Yeah, it's like the re-beaconing or something. Like, I like the name it gave. It was like stupid.
But I'm torn on whether or not I want more. Because, yeah, I guess as we're talking about some of these things, I guess I kind of would like some answers. But I also don't know how much more this game could be. Like, I don't know, what could be a new story? But I'm also not an author. I don't write stories.
Yeah.
So someone could come up with a better idea than I could, clearly.
Thoughts, Liz? You look confused.
Well, I was thinking like they could, like if they were going to make another one, they could go more into the history of the town, because they kind of gloss over like how it all started. Like they tell you like the, footnotes version of it, but they could go back with that and learn more about how like it all began with like, the crops and why everything froze over. So they could go backwards and then go forwards, and they'd have enough. And then of course, like we mentioned earlier, like fix Rollo and the mother. So there is like other stuff they could do with it, but...
Well, yeah, because clearly they can de-age people, so why don't they just de-age them?
Well, I don't think they can. So...
They de-aged you...
the mother finished... Yeah, she finished the recipe. I don't think she knows how to make the recipe. She just saw his algorithm, and fixed it, which the previous scientist was sabotaging his own work. So
But
she
Beck's
didn't really
mom-
know his work. She just fixed what he was doing.
I thought Beck's
but they
mom
could
figured
copy
it
it.
out.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. She just fixed what he intentionally screwed up, but I don't think she actually knows how to make it because he made it. The previous scientist, she just kind of.
She seems smart enough. I think she can handle it.
It's possible. I mean, you could easily write that of like, oh yeah, she fixed things.
Yeah. Well, so there's, I don't know. I guess there's those two things of like, why can't they de-age them? But I guess I don't know. So here's my other thing. We're talking about the right side of the tree. Do you think that the left side of the tree is just outright gone? Because here's the thing, right? Is you keep going back to these little flashbacks, and you're talking to your future self who's wearing a hazmat suit, and your father, and it says something about like you see yourself in that hazmat suit, like going through the town in a cold blaze, trying to save people. So it's like it's talking about something happening in the future that you never actually see, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Oh really?
When did that happen?
Is that all?
There was like
part
multiple
of
times that happened.
The left side of the tree. You know what I mean?
That's
Are
a
you
good
guys
question.
talking about like the fire?
Whenever you slept, there was a couple times
Yeah,
your
when
character
you
specifically
slept,
slept. Yeah. You would have a vision of like your father and then
Oh,
yourself.
okay, I remember.
In the future.
Okay, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, if they did a sequel, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to do something with that.
Yeah, like,
But then
does something happen in the future, and you're like one of the few people who know what it is to be able to help save it?
But at that point, your character's jaded and doesn't care to help the citizens.
But you're there.
Yeah.
Right?
So you say like it's a premonition?
I think
he's
so.
Seeing it when
In a
he's
weird
young,
way.
so now there's also like this magic.
I mean, there's already some kind of magic in the game.
Yeah, whatever
It's
the
not a
source
natural
is.
element.
Yeah, it's obviously kind of magical. Which I liked that the source was a real physical thing that you could like mine. And it wasn't. I was afraid the story was going to go that way of like, oh, it's just like a magic vein or something like that. No, it's meant to be like a real element that's just very rare. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like that they actually made it like a real physical thing. It's a made up thing, obviously, but I enjoyed that the story actually went like a more kind of grounded route with a fantastical element. But yeah. So you also brought up the clipboards, Liz. Yeah, I wish there was more story on them. I felt like they were clones, but I don't think they were, because on the good ending, some of them stay because they want to like right the wrongs that they did. Well, some of them left, like they were
But they
just
look
real humans.
identical, and they like not just like their clothing, but their faces. Like it definitely it seemed like they were like robots at first.
Don't be racist.
Robots?
No, I could figure out which ones were which.
I
Really?
mean, I
Just
feel
kidding.
like I'm not going to insult a big demographic. I'm very, 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 very sorry if I am here. But have you ever seen Jehovah's Witnesses? I don't think they play video games, and I don't think they listen to podcasts. And so I'm so sorry if we have any out there. But they show up at your door from time to time, and they just that's kind of the vision I had of the clipboards, is what I will say.
I see what you're going with that, or Scientologist if you want to go that way
Okay,
too, because Scientologists
Scientologist.
dress the same way too.
Yeah, I don't know. And in the context of the game where they're displaying very few characters, it made it that much easier to kind of convey a message by making them all look the same, like the exact same. Their actual story, I don't know, but that was kind of the vibe I got.
And
I see where you're going.
Like, there's not a lot of the same animal as well. You know what I mean? Like if you're looking at like woodland creatures, like I mean, a squirrel is a squirrel. You know, I can't tell squirrels apart. You know.
Do we want to kind of also bring up the point that apparently a Doberman pincer gives birth to the mayor looked like a chocolate lab, but then the heiress was I forget what breed that dog is, but they're
Like a
very
greyhound almost.
yeah, they're very wildly different breeds.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that. As a non-spoiler related thing, did you realize that Bex called her parents by their first name? She called her moms by their first name. She didn't refer to them as mom at all.
She did sometimes, didn't she?
No, each of them, Alona and
Was it like Moila or something weird?
that was her last name. It was like
that's right.
Meowla or something. But
But if you're
I
in
don't
a
know, it was
room
just really weird.
and you have two moms and you need mom's attention and you say mom,
But it was individual conversation because I think Alona was the one with like the white hair, fur, I guess, and she was like in talking to her about the hair or something, and yeah, she was like, "Oh yeah," so and she referred to the other mom by her first name, and I was like, "That's just really weird." I don't know.
Yeah,
say mom. It seemed odd to me because all of the other kids called their parents by mom, dad, and all that.
Well, she seemed like she had some resentment towards them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe that was her way of acting out.
Maybe.
Because, I mean, you can cut this out if you want. But I remember my sister would always, like, if she was, like, irritated with my mom, she would call her mother. Because to, like, make her mad.
She still does.
But you can erase that. But I just think it's funny how kids rebel like that.
Oh, I don't know. If my mom's not paying attention to me, I'll hit her with a Lois. Hey, Lois. It's very rare, but if I'm trying to talk to her and she's not paying enough attention to me, I'll hit her with the first name.
Oh, that'd be so
Nothing like
weird.
a little disrespect there from mom.
I can't imagine.
She knows I love her.
Calling my mom by her first name. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't think
it's not out of anger. It's only out of love.
There was another thing you wanted to bring up, but I can't remember what it was.
I don't remember. I also, this is like really off topic and it doesn't really have anything to do with a spoiler.
We never do this in this podcast. Don't do it right now.
What do you guys think of the day where he just wasted it? Where he was like in his room upset and the mother came up and was like, "Oh, I'll leave you."
I thought that was cool how it did it because that's the first time you get the achievement for the big freeze. And I thought that twist was cool. Where your kids are just chilling and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, now they're dead. And it's like, what the heck?
Yeah, well, I kind of like that it wasn't just like, oh, it was freeze. Like she's legitimately like, oh, and
they're
that's
frozen there forever.
They died.
Yeah,
forever and ever. Whoa.
Yeah, amended friendship
Nice.
sitting in beanbags. And it's like, dang, this got dark. I loved that. I thought that was really cool.
How much
it was very
of this
poetic.
freeze? Like, is it just the town? Is it
I think so.
the world?
It sounded like it was just the town.
Because
It almost seemed like it was like a nuclear blast of a sort. Like it was like, yeah, like some sort of area that encompassed the town effectively.
But forever and ever, you're telling me the rest of the world can't figure out how to unfreeze them. It doesn't know about the source. The source is only in this one town in the entire world.
Well, when you're
Maybe they don't have
frozen, you
global
are
warming in this world.
You are technically dead when you freeze for so long.
I mean, have you ever seen Encino Man?
Have you not seen Jurassic Park?
That's not frozen. They just...
It's an amber. Close enough, I guess. I don't know.
No,
I am pulling very loose
new
movie strings here.
dinosaurs. At least in Encino Man, he was legitimately frozen in a block of ice.
And it had Brendan Fraser, so you know it's right. But anyway, was there anything else you guys want to discuss in spoilers?
No, you're going to have fun editing this.
I know.
No, I think we've just reached the end of the rails.
No, we're just grasping at straws. All right. Well, I think we're going to end this episode here. So if you enjoyed the spoiler cast, what is wrong with you? For those who are normal people and thought this was annoying, we're with you. No.
And if you turned it off already, you're not listening to this.
So thank you so much, SleepXD, who recommended we play this on our YouTube channel. If you have recommendations, you can email us at gamepassgraphic@gmail.com or hit us up on our Twitter or Facebook at GBGBpod, or go to our YouTube channel or send us a carrier pigeon or something. I don't know. Just reach out to us any way you want. Find me on Xbox Live, Firebird01952. You can do a recommendation there. But thank you all for joining us. Keith.
Man, I have been so bad at these. It's usually my specialty to have a really, really good outro and just...
No,
I don't know.
Your specialty is usually coming up
nothing.
with a shtick for the outro. Do it for one episode and then never do it again.
I'll have one for next week. You can guarantee I will have a shtick next week.
Let's go run over some Keith shticks here. There was going to be the Keith dictionary where you would say words that normally aren't said of things. I think you were going to do. I think were you reading reviews off of fast food Twitters?
I think I did that once. I was going to do Keith reviews.
Yeah,
I was just gonna have people review me.
Yep. There was that shtick.
I mean, I can only review myself so often.
Or I thought you were going to quote Guy Fieri. I thought that was another shtick you were going to do.
That does sound like one I would do.
All right, so next week Keith will come up with a new one.
Nice.
And I'm listening.
I looked over at you, and you were like half asleep.
I'm falling asleep right now. I mean, no offense to you guys.
List the name. What?
I'm Liz the Noob, gamertag, comment on Dean, and I'm on Twitter, @Liz the Noob, Noob is EW.
By far your best outro. All right, well, we love you all. We'll see you again next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.